Mr. President, guests, learned speakers of the day, guests and citizens of Singapore. It is my privilege to be here this afternoon with you, and I must thank the organizers for having given me the opportunity of paying my first ever visit to this beautiful city. My first impression about Singapore is that it is having the best of the past as well as of the present. It is quite modern, and yet it is very cultured and civilized. Because to be modern and to be cultured together is not that easy. So having come over here, I thank, as I said, the organizers first. I thank the President for the kind words he spoke about me. And above all, I am grateful to the divine dispensation which brought us together. Every event in the space and time continuum is woven into the appalling immensity of the cosmic fabric by this dispensation. I bow down to the divine dispensation and pay my gratitude. From man human to man divine sounds very optimistic, futuristic, almost presumptuous. How can man ever be divine? It is something like the desire of the moth for the star. The line from Shelley. It is almost asking for the impossible. Very few takers are there of this proposition that man, as he is today, still contains some spark which guides him over to another state of consciousness, and on this earth itself, ihaiva tarijitaha sargo, here itself there shall be heaven, and man himself can be divine. There are two very clear voices heard against the proposal. One is from the West, the other is from the East. The Western voice is obviously guided by the scientific thinkers. They say that there is no denying the fact that man is an animal. He is a primate. He has all the qualities of an animal. He behaves like an animal and shall continue to behave like an animal ad infinitum. Way back in ancient Athens, it was Plato, that great philosopher, who first of all defined man as a featherless biped. And his disciple, Aristotle, disproved his definition the next day. He brought to his academy a proved bird, exhibited it to others, and said, "Here is Plato's man." Plato saw it from a distance, understood where the fault lies, and naturally the definition was given up. But it was a silent challenge for Aristotle himself to come out with an alternative definition. And the definition given by Aristotle still holds good. He said, man is a rational animal. He is an animal all right, but a different kind of animal. He is gifted with a faculty called rationality. As a result, he belongs to the genus of animals, but the differentia is rationality. But today, we have started doubting the definition of Aristotle also. Is man adequately rational to be called a man? Is he still deserving to be called human? Some of them have legitimately doubted that the animality, percentage of animality in man is still high. They say that when you are talking to a man, you are actually addressing a crocodile a horse, and a human being simultaneously. They are supported by the scientists. They say that under the human skull, there are 3 layers of his brain. The topmost layer is the human brain. Underneath, a smaller lump is the mammalian brain. And still underneath is a knot-like substance known as the reptilian brain. The reptilian brain is represented by the crocodile, the mammalian brain by the horse, and of course, the human brain by the human being. So, when you are talking to a man, you are addressing a crocodile, a horse, and a human being simultaneously. There is so much of the animal in man. Not only that, man at times is worse than an animal. If you don't believe, you can turn the pages of daily newspaper and get ample evidence of it. Killing for no reason, killing for sport. A predator kills for food. A human being kills for pleasure. We have given sufficient evidence for somebody who visits from outside the solar system and watches what is happening here on planet Earth. He has ample evidence, ample reason to call man worse than animals. So, what chance is there for such a creature who is yet to be fully human to claim divinity on earth and divinity in human life? There is absolutely no chance. In the process of evolution, there are certain questions which are yet unanswered. For instance, how and when did this planet Earth come into existence? The solar system come into existence? They have one answer. They say there was a Big Bang, and from that moment onwards, the galaxies spread out in this immense expanse of space, and planets and stars, suns were all created. But the basic questions are unanswered. Basic questions are, if the Big Bang is an event, where did it take place? Can you locate the point in space where this Big Bang took place? There's no answer. The second question is, when did it take place? The time, not known. Imaginary space and imaginary time are vague answers. And the third most crucial question is, why did it take place? What compulsion was there for this Big Bang to take place? Was there something constitutionally compelling in matter which caused this? And what was there before the Big Bang? Was there matter? Was there antimatter? Was there non-matter? These questions are not yet addressed. No question of being answered. And from then onwards, there are such dozens of questions, among which is the last one, to cut it short. How could man, gifted with a mind, appear on planet Earth? And how could the first spark of life came into existence on an inanimate planet called Earth? How could it come? If it was inanimate, it was just dead planet, how could the first spark of life appear? This question has been posed in Kenopanishad. Kene shitam patati preshitam manaha. Kena pranaha pratama praiti juktaha. By whom and by what is this mind motivated, activated? If the mind guides, monitors everything, who monitors the mind? What monitors the mind? Kena can stand for what, also can stand for whom. And the second one is, Kena prana pratama praiti juktaha. How could the first spark of life be made to exist? Who could bring it? What could bring it to existence? The answer is different in both the lines. So, in the West, they do not have yet answers to these basic questions, fundamental questions concerning the existence of man on earth. And then the story of evolution. The evolution so far is physical evolution, as understood by our students of anthropology, biology. They are being taught in the lines of Charles Darwin's theory of evolution and like that. There are questions raised on the theory of evolution into which we need not get. They say that you go by the fossils. If one fossil is older than the other, then it must have fathered the younger one. That is wrong logic. That may be older, but it doesn't mean that the later one has evolved out of it. It hasn't grown out of it. But human species has come into existence and it has done wonders. Man is an animal, all right, but what a wonderful animal is man. Durlabham manusam janma. A wonderful specimen of God's creation. For instance, man is the only animal who knows that he is an animal. Man is the only animal who knows that he is not an animal. Man is the only animal who knows the known, knows the unknown, and can comprehend the unknowable. He has a reach to the unreachable. Space, time, and causality, he understands. Beyond space, not subjected to space, is the infinite. He comprehends. If it is not subject to time, it is eternal. He comprehends. If it is not subject to causation, it is unchanged. It doesn't evolve. So these basic aspects of human existence, this animal understands. But the conclusion is, scientist says, that whatever be the status of a man, whatever be his achievement so far, the fact remains that man is an animal, undeniable fact, and this animal can never ever be divine. The second voice is heard from the east. Obviously, it is from the Upanishads. The Upanishad says, Sarvam khalu idam Brahma. Entire thing is divine. It says, Ishabhasyam idam sarvam. Yatkincha jagatyam jagat. All this movement and the flux, the entire existence, the dynamic and the static, are equally inhabited by the Lord. Isha is the Lord. So, there are three great discoveries made by the Upanishads. The first one is that in this baffling multiplicity, there is one truth running through. That eko devaha sarvabhutesu gudhaha sarvabhyapi sarvabhutantaratma. That this single truth runs through, present everywhere. And from this point of view, nothing is undivine. The animate and the inanimate, which we distinguish by human intelligence, are equally divine. Mattaha parataram nanyat kinchitasti sarvam protam sutre maniganaiva. That I am the thread, and all these multiple appearances hang like pearls. So it says that man is already divine. Here lies the basic difference between the Western and the Eastern attitudes. Western says that man is a human being who tries to get spiritual experience. Here the Upanishad says man is essentially a spiritual being who undergoes human experience. Is essentially a spiritual being who undergoes human experience. They say man is a human being trying to get spiritual experience. It is not a difference in the angle of approach. It is a difference in understanding itself, the realization itself. So the Upanishad doesn't stop there. It says, Ishvaraha sarvabhutanam hridde sarjanatistati brahmayan sarvabhutani yantrarudhani mayaya. Addressing man, he says, right in you sits the divine. He is responsible for all your activities, your thoughts, your actions, your movements. He is behind all the motivations. So He is the Lord who sits in you. Like the charioteer occupying the chariot, He occupies you as the Lord. Not only that, still man is different from the divine. He is, let us say, the medium. Navadware pure dehi. He is the vehicle which is occupied by the divine. But what about him? The Upanishad says, goes one step further and says, Tattvamasi Shvetaketu. If you are in search of the ultimate truth, the Brahman, don't go out elsewhere. You are yourself Brahman. Stage by stage, the mentor has taught the disciple. The first stage is Brahma Satya, Jagat Mithya, first stage. And the disciple tries to understand this, realize it. He says, there is Brahman, there is Jagat, and there is myself. So three entities. Jagat is Mithya, is false. Brahman is Satya. And I am trying to realize both separately. But he comes back with the original question, but what is Brahman? And the mentor this time says, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. Very baffling. And the first statement, the Guru, the mentor, declared this to be false. The Jagat, the flux. Jagat is at times translated into world. No, it's wrong. Jagat is Gam Quip Jagat. That which keeps moving. It is the flux which comes closer to the word Jagat. This was declared false. Now he says, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. The entire thing is Brahman. But no questioning the statement of the Guru. He accepts it with bowed down head. He says, Brahman is there and myself. Okay, Brahman is true and I am trying to know this ultimate truth. Returns to the mentor after some time. Same original question. But Lord, what is Brahman? And the third Guru Vakya comes. Tattvamasi Shvetaketu. Thou art that. So there is a merger. First three entities reduced to two entities. Now one entity. There is no difference between the individual and the ultimate truth. Now if that be the situation, what is the point in asking for a change from man human to man divine? If man is already divine, Jiva Brahmaiva Naparam, if there is no difference between Brahman and Jiva, no difference between man and the divine, what is this effort to become the divine? The crux of the whole issue lies here. Man is to be identified. Man has a body, a physical entity. Man has a vital plane where there are passions, desires, where he feels. There is a mental plane where he thinks, takes decision. Behind it, there is the psychic plane. Still deeper, the spiritual plane. All these are there. Man is in fact a cosmos in miniature. He contains everything that the universe contains. He is a multi-layered existence. So, this human body, which has served him as the medium to understand, to realize, to reach higher stages of consciousness, what happens to the body? In other words, what happens to the physical when the divine in me is released into the divine? Either you are Jivanamukta, or you are, after the fall of the body, you become mukta, merely mukta. So when you are liberated, what is liberated actually? The already free soul is set free. What is new about it? The soul was never in bondage. The soul was never in bondage. To set the free soul again free means nothing. Science talks of evolution. The Upanishads, along with Bhagavad Gita, they talk about divinity, two voices, but there is a third voice which asks questions after accepting the approaches and attitudes of these two speakers from the East and from the West. You are right when you are talking about evolution, but please think over whether it is the evolution of the physical, of matter only, or is it something else? If matter is energy, cannot energy be consciousness? They say now that matter is a form of energy, and they are almost on the brink of admitting that energy is a form of consciousness. So it has been an evolution of consciousness from one state of consciousness to another. And when you change the state of consciousness, it demands another form for expression. So a man is the result of the stage of human consciousness which we have reached. The consciousness compels this form. So, in that case, can we say that if evolution is a process, it should stop with a human being? Man was molded out of the original brute, as a line from Sri Aurobindo. Yes, animal was a living laboratory for nature to work out man. A further stage is suggested by him, says that man can be a living and thinking laboratory for nature to manifest the Superman. One was possible, why not the other? If evolution is a process, it cannot stop with a human being. Man is still a transitional being. He is yet to grow. There is a possibility for another manifestation. And what is this? Nobody has yet answered. It is Sri Aurobindo who comes up and says that it is the supramental. He has understood a man in a much more different way than any other scientist has ever done. He understands the body as a plane of consciousness. He understands the human body as an assemblage of living cells. Consciousness can percolate to the cells, individual cells. Body has a mind of its own, not necessarily the brain. Brain is certainly not the mind. Brain is still a lump of matter. Mind is a force. Mind is a power. Mind is a manifestation. So normally we equate the brain with the mind. He understands it differently. The vital plane, wherever we feel, we have passions, we have desires, we have all kinds of lust, hatred, even love at a higher plane. Love. All these come under the vital plane. There is a vital mind. So whichever aspect of this plane understands, thinks, and takes the decision is the mind there. Body has a mind. Body has a voice of its own. Even the scientists admit. When you are overeating, the body silently cries out, "Look, enough is enough. Now you better stop." We never listen to it. Go on stuffing things in and ultimately get the result. We commit the blunder, the body suffers. So the body has a language of its own. Body has a mind of its own. The vital too has a mind of its own. And then of course the mind is there. The mind has a higher level. There is a higher mind. There is an illumined mind. There is an overmind. And finally there is a supermind. The supramental is not a magnification of the mental. It is not a difference in degree. It is a difference in kind. Just as time and eternity are not different in degree alone. If you extend time, it becomes eternity. Wrong. It can never become eternity. Eternity is another plane of truth. Time is at one level. Eternity is at another. Likewise, the mind, by magnification, by purification, can never become the supermind. The difference, he says modestly, the difference between matter and mind is the same as the difference between mind and supermind. And how does it happen? First of all, why should it happen? Because the body has been, the physical has been neglected all along. The physical plane is considered asukham, anityam, lokam. This doesn't have happiness, doesn't promise joy to you. This is ephemeral. Give it up. That's what the Bhagavad Gita says. And the body is a prison, and the human soul struggles to get out of this prison. This is an attitude which Sri Aurobindo says may not be. So, to conclude, sorry, borrowed time. So, he says that behind all these stages of evolution, movement, there is a force. Whatever is there can come out. If there is no tree concealed in a seed, it cannot come out. Unless the mind is concealed in matter, it cannot come out of matter. Likewise, if the supramental is not concealed already in the mind, mental, it can't come out. Therefore, the supramental works from below and the supramental descends from above. And he says, I can declare that the descent of the supramental is inevitable. And from my experience, I can say that the descent should and can be now and not at a later date. Thereby, he is seeking our cooperation. Look, this is the time when he must take the opportunity of joining the great effort of transcending the human limits and going to the supramental. And finally he says, I know, God, the day shall dawn at last when man shall rise from playing with the mud. Man has been playing with the mud, and he will rise from playing with the mud. And the day shall rise, bringing new light upon earth. And transformation from man-human to man-divine is not only possible, it is inevitable and decreed. Thank you.
Come over to the mic.
And what about that? It's a few.
Give you an illustration from common life. You are planning a trip to New York and you are packing up your bags. All along you are full of New York. Your mind is full of New York. You have started feeling the presence of New York in you. It is actually compelling you, inspiring you, and at the end of the journey is New York waiting for you. So New York physically is at a distance, but again, in a subtle way, it is already present in you. The entire flight on the way, when you are asked, where are you going? Going to the New York flight. Every inch you cover in space, you call it New York flight. So it's full of New York and New York all along. So the supramental is already in you, disturbing you and forcing you to take decisions accordingly, and then to descend from above, come down from above. And only conjointly these two shall perform the wonder. Otherwise, it is not possible. By only human effort, you can never reach the supramental heights. Something like a person lost on the snows of the Himalayas, doesn't know what to do. Then comes a helicopter from above and gets down the rope, the ladder. He clings on to this rope and the helicopter takes him way over the peak. That is necessary. In other words, all from below, the aspiration of a human being from below, and the grace that answers from above. Human aspiration and divine grace together.
How the Jagat form of God tell about something but clothing statements?
There is a profound scriptural question. There's, anyway, I'll try to answer the question. The first statement, Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya, is meant for the victor of Brahman.
doesn't know what is truth, he doesn't know what is divine, but he has a very vague sort of thirst for truth. And with this sacred desire serving him, comes to the Guru, asks him. The utterance of the Guru is therefore correct. Why? Because everything keeps changing. You are not what you were when you came into my ashram, and you shall not be what you are after 5 minutes. The philosopher has rightly said, never get into the same stream twice. Never repeat this moment, for instance. Through our life as it is, without a change, for all times. Therefore, that which keeps changing like this, thereby indicates that which changes is eternal. Change itself gives the impression of what changes. The form changes, time changes, place changes. No, place doesn't change, time doesn't change. Matter, the cloud which had a shape, takes another shape after 1 minute. Process of change impresses upon us transitoriness of all appearances are false. That is indicated by Brahma Satya, Jagat is Mithya. False is not non-existent. False is deludes, misleads. Let's not get into that because that will lead us to avidya and all other concerns. And then, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. After he has deliberated on this for some time, on Brahma, whatever he might have deliberated on this, meditated on this, and he is now ready to get the second statement from the Guru. Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. All this is divine. That which appeared to be something else now appears to be another, and after some time still another. Is only the impression. But essentially it is divine, it never changes. Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma carefully leads the disciple from one stage of realization to the second one who has crossed the primary. Again, I am very happy that relevant question. If the process of evolution cannot stop at man, should it by the same logic stop at the Superman? Why need it? There is something beyond the Superman? The question is very logical. Answer is, beyond the Superman is a stage regarding which cannot discuss. Because, say, I tell you, ask the mother when she finds her lost child. How did you feel when you saw your lost child? How did you feel when you found that to your breast? Ask him. There is a particular limit, mind. Let us not talk about God quietly. Agreeing, understanding is at one. I think words fail. Words do fail us. And when we want to form a question, right words don't come to our mind. Say something very important, we keep on scratching the back of our head, and the words do fail. Words are verbal gestures, same medium, ideas for perception. Therefore, beyond the supramental, should not stop. Yes, it's after all, Saparivat, Shukram, Bhayam, Abradam, layers, limitless, divine. What is the limit? Can't draw a line and say here it ends, but the supramental also, process should not end higher, purer, brighter, and it will not be answer, but
one last question. While you come there, 1 minute story. Swami Vivekananda tried to ask a question. How will come tomorrow morning? Takes him into the water. And this one, he says, no, we need to get a little hand on his head and look down into the water. So I start screaming. And what feeling you're about to kill? No, tell me what question, if I could rephrase. Solution of what does it mean to what is it that you can do?
I agree. Matter as such, a handful of dust, for instance, say this handful of dust shall become the divine. When? But take the time, definitely. But that be the process very long that man cannot even think of living in the limited lifespan of a human being. How does it matter whether divine descends to the physical level or not? When Sri Aurobindo talks of matter, the physical level, talks of the level of a human being. Thereby, he means the physicality, body of the human being. And when he is talking about the body of the human being, he is actually indicating the cells of the body. Cells can become conscious. Cells can receive this new consciousness. That is actually divination. Transformation about which Sri Aurobindo is the cellular transformation of cell awakens, and it was achieved during the lifetime of Sri Aurobindo. Point is, such statements for a scientific mind do not have the good credibility. For the scientific mind, which is not possible. Certain areas you cannot demand evidence. Can you ever prove eternal love? Can you ever prove conjugal love? Can you quantify it? Can you measure it? Can you say what length and breadth is there? Love for your friend? Can't do it. Therefore, that which demands such evidence is evidence. Sending consciousness by the cells of the body, cells will receive the light. Answer comes from Janmayena Patrena, Satyasya Apihitam Muha, Tattvam Bhushan Abhagranam, Satyadaraja Pratyabhivarasantamam. There is a golden lid covering the face of truth, being lying in the form of God. And there I cover my form and discover I am that Purusha, I am that divine. Kind of realization comes to hell, which you consider inanimate. He talks hell in the physical body.